Hi, and welcome to Lamplighter Podcast. My name is Rebecca, and this is my squirrel friend, Momo.
Hello, kids!
We have an exciting story for you today. In each of our stories, we are going to learn about one virtue. A virtue is anything that is good and right and true. Virtues are like little lights that shine bright and beautiful in a story.
Can I tell them about letters from Momo?
Go ahead.
I want to send you a real letter in the mail once a month. In my letters, I will tell you more silly forest stories, talk about virtues, and show you a real historical person who practiced that virtue. Oh, and I'll also talk about acorns.
If you would like to get letters from Momo in the mail once a month, just ask your adult to visit lamplighterkids.com. If you sign up before the 20th, you will get a letter from Momo for that month. Visit lamplighterkids.com for more information. So, are you ready? Come and listen while we light the way to your imagination. Hi guys, and welcome back! Before we start our story today, we have a very important announcement to make. Momo, do you want to say our announcement to our listeners?
Oh, sure, if you want me to. Our announcement.
No, Momo. I meant that you should tell our listeners what the announcement is, not just say our announcement.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense. Okay, here's the announcement. Rebecca is going to take a summer vacation starting next month, which means she won't be telling us any stories in July or August. At first, I was a little sad about this. I love listening to her stories, but then I had a great idea.
It was a very good idea, Momo. While I'm gone on vacation, Momo decided that he and some of his forest friends are going to tell you stories while I'm away.
I'm so excited to tell you guys my stories the next couple months. I'm going to call it Momo Summer Camp Stories. My friends, Sammy the reindeer, Yuki the rabbit, and Dolores the sparrow will also be sharing stories with you all.
I think everyone's going to love Momo's summer camp stories. And I know Momo will include a lot of virtues in his stories as well.
I sure will! Momo's summer camp stories will start next month, and I just can't wait!
Speaking of waiting, I think we've all waited long enough to begin our story today. So, let's go! Today's story is about 3 adventurous heroes who just happen to also be hamsters. For years, the hamsters at Hamstar headquarters had been working hard to build the best rockets the world had ever known. Hamsters everywhere had been watching with excitement as the rockets got bigger and better until it was finally announced that one of the rockets, the Grand Luna Whisker 1, was going to fly to the moon. This caused quite a stir in the hamster world. No hamster had ever been to the moon before, although it had been the dream of many young pups to be the first hamster on the moon. Now, with the Luna Whisker 1 ready to fly, that dream was about to become a reality. One hamster in particular was especially excited for this. Captain FluffyCheeks walked along the sidewalk towards the Hamstar headquarters. In the distance, he saw the Luna Whisker 1 rocket sitting still and silent on its launch pad. He stopped for a minute to take it in. "It's just perfect," he said, gazing at it with wonder. "And to think that in a few hours, my team and I are going to fly that thing up to the moon." His eyes began to fill with tears at the thought. He had been specially chosen, along with his friends Squeaks and Cheeselina, to be the first hamsternauts on the moon. There had been hundreds of hamsters who wanted that honor. Captain FluffyCheeks couldn't believe that he was one of the three to be chosen. Captain FluffyCheeks shook his head, remembering that he was already running late. He shouldn't be sitting here staring at the rocket. He should be in the preparation room with his teammates. With quick steps, he went through the sliding doors of the Ham Star headquarters. When he entered the building, he could sense the energy of all the hamsters running around. They were chattering and squeaking, scurrying about, getting ready for the big launch day. Captain FluffyCheeks felt proud to be working with these amazing hamsters. Inside this building were some of the top scientists, mathematicians, and athletes in all of hamster kind. Captain FluffyCheeks waved and smiled to some of his friends as he walked through the crowd toward the back tunnel. He weaved his way through the familiar hamster tunnels that led to many different rooms. Finally, he arrived at the preparation room and walked inside to see his teammates, Squeaks and Cheeselina, waiting inside for him.
Hey, it's Captain Fluffy Muffin,
said Squeaks, a hamsternaut who never stopped joking around.
We were all just wondering if maybe you got stuck on a hamster wheel and forgot about the big launch day, Captain. We were ready to go without you.
Cheeselina laughed. Oh, come on, Squeaks. We couldn't get to the moon without the captain. We need all of us or it's a no-go.
All right, if you say so. Anyways, if you come with us, you won't miss out on the delicious moon cheese that we're all going to eat up there. I can't wait to find out what flavor the moon is made out of.
Squeaks looked wistful, licking his lips.
Squeaks, we keep telling you that the moon is not made out of cheese. That was a theory hamsters held many years ago, but most of us don't believe it anymore.
Captain FluffyCheeks smiled. Squeaks had been talking about moon cheese ever since they started their hamsternaut training.
Believe what you will, Captain. You can't stop me from hoping,
Squeaks said jovially. The door slammed open, and a large, fluffy hamster strode in. All right, everyone, enough jokes. Sit up, sit straight. Their instructor, Madam Spinnet, walked into the room in a flurry.
You three are the top hamsternauts after all. I want to see you acting like it today.
She clapped twice, and several hamsters walked into the room, beginning to do their checkups on the three hamsternauts. They stuck thermometers, monitors, and cords on them, making sure they were in top shape before launch.
As you know, you three will soon be buckled up in the Luna Whisker 1, ready to take on the most daring mission of hamster history, the mission to the moon. This will take courage. It will take work, but that's exactly why we have practiced so much these last few months.
Captain FluffyCheeks, Squeaks, and Cheeselina all looked at each other, remembering all the hard work they had gone through to get to this point. Madam Spinnet walked all around them, making sure their checkup had been thorough before shuffling them all out to their next inspection point. As Captain FluffyCheeks followed his teammates, he couldn't help but smile, even if Madam Spinnet didn't approve. He was about to embark on the mission of his life, something he had always dreamed of ever since he was small. He was about to travel to the moon. Captain FluffyCheeks, Squeaks, and Cheeselina sat with their heavy spacesuits on, buckled up, inside the Luna Whisker 1. It was launch time. The captain looked at the two hamsternauts sitting next to him in a row. Squeaks looked over and smiled, giving everyone a thumbs up while mouthing the words moon cheese in excitement. Cheeselina rolled her eyes at him, but couldn't hide her smile. Inside their helmets, they had headsets which allowed them to talk to mission control at Ham Star headquarters. They heard everyone there getting all the last-minute things ready, checking their numbers and computers to make sure everything was perfect before the launch.
This is Ham Star to Luna Whisker 1. We are a go. We are beginning the countdown to take off.
On the screen in front of them, they saw large red numbers appear and began counting backwards. Then the Hamsternauts heard the large rockets deep below them roar to life. The whole ship began to shake under the power of the rockets. Their little paws held on tight to their armrests. They couldn't change their minds now. They were going to space. As the numbers got lower, they heard Mission Control begin the final countdown.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and blast off!
The rocket was released from its launch pad, and the three Hamsternauts began to slowly lift into the air. Captain FluffyCheeks' heart thudded loudly in excitement. They had practiced their drills hundreds of times, but this was the real thing. He watched the white clouds get closer and closer as the rocket picked up speed. Then they burst through the clouds and still kept going, higher and higher. Captain FluffyCheeks realized that his fluffy cheeks were hurting from smiling so much. After a few wild minutes, they blasted through Earth's atmosphere, and their rocket began to slow down. The sky wasn't blue anymore, but black and dotted with stars. They had left their large rocket behind and now drifted slowly through space in their small spacecraft. Well, boys, we did it! Cheeselina took off her helmet and shook her fur out. Then she unbuckled her seatbelt. The minute she did this, she began floating up toward the ceiling of their ship. Ho-ho! Look at me! I'm a flying hamster! She laughed loudly as she pushed herself off of the ceiling and back towards her chair. Squeaks unbuckled as well and joined Cheeselina in laughing and pushing themselves around their ship. Captain FluffyCheeks took a deep breath, almost unable to believe what was happening. He had dreamed of this moment for so many years. He closed his eyes and unbuckled, feeling his body lift off into the air. It was better than he had imagined. He joined the others in laughing and spinning around the spacecraft. Being a hamsternaut took so much hard work, and they knew there was more hard work to come. But this moment, floating through space, made everything worth it. After they adjusted to the feeling of weightlessness, the three hamsternauts spent the rest of the day tending to the controls and making sure they were heading in the right direction. Everything had to be perfect in order to land on the moon. In just 3 days, the whole hamster world would be watching as they tried to do what no hamster had done before: land on the moon. The days passed quickly and mostly quietly as the three hamsternauts approached the moon. They checked their dials every day, ate space food, and enjoyed feeling floaty. Finally, on the 3rd morning, they woke up, ready for the big day. The moon was only a short distance away now, and they had to get everything ready for the landing. Squeaks pushed some buttons on the dashboard.
Now, I know the moon is not made of cheddar cheese. I'm sure of that. I'm betting on mozzarella.
Squeaks, I don't think the moon is made of mozzarella, said Cheeselina as she flipped up some dials. And the moon is not made out of cheese, you crazy goof. Squeaks smiled.
Well, I'm not giving up hope until we know for sure. Nobody's ever been to the moon, so nobody really knows, now do they? Wow, look, guys!
He pointed out the small round window and everyone looked. The moon was closer than ever. Its white light filled up their little spacecraft. All three hamsternauts floated over to the window to get a better look. They were so close now that they could see mountains and craters clearly on the surface of the moon. Captain FluffyCheeks wiped a tear from his eyes. I've dreamed of this day all my life, guys. I would stare up at the moon as a young pup and wonder what it was like to visit it. Now, I'm about to find out." Squeak smiled. "Me too, except I would stare at the moon and wonder what flavor it was. Now, I'm about to find out." Before anyone had a chance to roll their eyes at Squeaks, a loud bang shook their cabin. Immediately, their dials began to flash and beep. An alarm began ringing. All of the Hamsternauts snapped to attention and flew back to their stations. Captain FluffyCheeks grabbed the intercom to talk to Mission Control. Squeaks began checking the screen to see where the errors were. And Cheeselina began getting the spacesuits out in case they needed them.
Whisker Rocket 1, come in. Do you hear us? Come in. Do you hear us?
Mission Control at Hamstar came in loud through their intercom.
Your vessel has been hit.
"We hear you," said Captain FluffyCheeks. "We felt the impact here. We think it must have been a space rock. We're trying to see where it hit." Squeaks raised his hand. "Got it. It looks like it hit our fuel tank on the left side. We're losing fuel." Cheeselina pushed her way over to some dials and began working. "I'll turn off the dials on the fuel tank and shut down the engines. That should buy us some time. But somebody needs to go out there and fix the hole." She looked up at Captain FluffyCheeks, calm in the face of danger. "I think that someone is you, Captain." Captain FluffyCheeks knew this was true. They had spent hours and hours training in case an emergency happened, and now it had. Perhaps, if he worked quickly, they would still have enough fuel to get to the moon. Immediately, he began to get on his spacesuit. This mission required courage from the beginning, but now more than ever. He pushed his fears aside and pulled his boots on. When he had his whole spacesuit on, Cheeselina opened the door for him that led to a small chamber. "You got this, Captain. We're counting on you." Captain FluffyCheeks nodded at her, and she shut the door behind him. He took a deep breath as he waited for the second door to open. There was nothing behind that door except space itself, and a broken ship waiting to be fixed. For a second, fear began to fill his heart. What if he couldn't do it? What would happen if he didn't fix the ship? He closed his eyes and reminded himself that the best stories always had moments of great fear. He might just be a small hamster floating in infinite space, but he knew right then and there that he had strength enough to do what was right in front of him. With a heart full of courage, he opened his eyes again and watched the door to space begin to open. He pushed himself through the door, thankful for the long rope that kept him attached to the spacecraft. The speaker inside his helmet crackled on.
Captain, it's Squeaks here. Are you outside? I am, Squeaks. Give me directions on where to go.
The captain listened closely as Squeaks and Cheeselina told him exactly where to go. He drifted over a window and onto the other side of the spacecraft, where he immediately saw the hole. It was only the size of a baseball, but that was big enough to cause their fuel leak. He watched as the thick, gooey liquid slowly floated away into space. As quick as he could in a big, bulky suit, Captain FluffyCheeks went over to the crack and began to work. With Squeaks, Cheeselina, and Mission Control all guiding him through his speakers, he used the tools he had brought to twist, meld, and hammer everything they told him to. After a few minutes of hard work, Captain FluffyCheeks sat back. Everything looked perfect, and there was no longer a hole in their spacecraft. Breathing hard, he spoke to his team.
All right, everyone. The spacecraft is fixed.
His whole helmet filled with happy cheers from everyone. Captain FluffyCheeks smiled and leaned his head back on the metal of the spacecraft. He looked out towards space, and there, before his eyes, was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. Earth, his own planet, floating far away in space, surrounded by millions of stars. He had seen Earth before, of course, through the small round windows in their spacecraft, But out here with no walls around him, it looked completely different, bigger somehow, quieter. He thought about all the little hamsters down there living their lives. He still wanted to get to the moon, of course, to walk on it, but his heart also filled with a great longing and love for Earth. He couldn't wait to return. Look at this, look at this, look at this, the whole world is before my eyes. Floating there, full of hamsters all living their lives. And to think, and to think, and to think that we each have our own great part. To have courage, to have the strength of heart. It takes courage to live our stories right, to face our fears, to chase the light. It takes courage, it takes courage. May this earth be filled with courage.
That was a beautiful song, Captain. Thanks for singing to us and to Mission Control.
Captain laughed in embarrassment. He hadn't realized that everyone had heard his song.
Now, unless you found a fun hamster wheel out there in space, we'd love for you to come join us. Mission Control says we still have enough fuel to go to the moon. So if you're ready, I sure could use some moon cheese after that experience.
Captain FluffyCheeks shook his head in amusement, then began pushing his way back towards the door. The mission was still on. They were still going to land on the moon today. Landing on the moon was as amazing as everyone had imagined it to be, except Squeaks, of course, who was a bit disappointed that it was not, as he had hoped, made out of cheese. He felt a little better, though, when Mission Control at Hamstar promised that they would throw him a big cheese party when they got back to Earth. The videos of the 3 Hamsternauts bouncing around on the moon were watched by millions of hamsters back on Earth. They were only on the moon for a few hours before they had to pack up and begin the journey home, but it was enough time for all of them to enjoy the wonderful adventure. When they returned back to Earth, they were hamster heroes. Everyone wanted to hear their story. They asked many questions, and Captain FluffyCheeks loved seeing how courageous it made them feel to hear about their adventure. He would always tell them that courage was more than just going on big and brave adventures. It was about choosing to go forward, however slowly, even in the face of great fear. From then on, whenever Captain FluffyCheeks looked up into the night sky and spotted the moon, he would always stop and remember. He remembered his team. He remembered floating and laughing in his spacecraft. He remembered seeing Earth glowing far away. But most of all, he remembered the courage that had filled his heart during the whole expedition, a courage that shone bright even in the face of fear. He was glad he had walked on the moon, and now he was glad to be back on the planet he loved the most, back on Earth.
Oh, that was just the best story, especially because hamsters kind of remind me of squirrels. Maybe I should become a squirrel-o-nut.
Well, if they ever make a squirrel mission to the moon, I'm sure you'd be the first choice for a squirrel-o-nut.
But then again, maybe I don't. That part kind of scared me where they got hit by a space rock.
That's true. Going on big adventures almost always has some scary parts to it. That's when we have to practice having courage. Courage is a lot like bravery. It means that you have strength to keep going even when something is scary or hard. Captain FluffyCheeks had to practice courage when their spacecraft got hit with a rock. That was very scary, but he kept going and in the end, he fixed the problem.
Sometimes when I get scared, I don't want to do anything but sit down and hide.
Me too, Momo. But I bet after you do that, you get up again and try to find solutions to your problem. Maybe you ask someone for help, or you do something that makes you feel less scared. It takes courage to make those kinds of choices. All right, it's question time. Question 1. What does it mean to have courage? Question 2. Can you think of a time when you had to have courage? Tell your adult about it. All right, everyone. This is the last episode before I go on my summer vacation for 2 months. But don't worry, when I come back in September, I'm going to have lots of fun and exciting stories to tell you.
And while she's gone, I'm going to bring you some fun stories too. I can't wait to tell you about some of the fun adventures I have with all my friends here in the forest.
I'm sure you're going to do a great job, Momo.
See you all soon for Momo's Summer Camp Stories.
Thanks for listening to Lamplighter Podcast today. If you liked our story, please leave us a review. It really helps other listeners find these stories. If you're interested in subscribing to Letters from Momo, just visit our website at lamplighterkids.com. I also love to hear from my listeners. You can email me anytime at lamplighterkids@gmail.com.